This knife is a failure. There's a lot of things that went wrong with it. Some of you knife makers out there, well, I don't know if any of you who watch my channel are knife makers, but if you know anything about knives, perhaps during the process you saw some things that you could just point out were wrong or would lead to this ultimate failure. There's a lot of things that went wrong on this knife, actually. So, top of the list is hardness. This blade, I quenched this blade twice in an attempt to get it hard enough to be a knife blade that was serviceable, and as you can see, this knife does not escape a file at all. It wouldn't hold an edge, and thus it will not make a good knife. So that was issue number one. Issue number two was during the grinding process. I ground this blade way too thin. I haven't done any sharpening, and I mean, obviously I just filed across this blade, but before that I could easily shave the top two layers of my skin off with no resistance, with no sharpening. That edge is way too thin to be strong. Issue number three, I think that's three, there's a lot, is this ferric chloride etch. I did take some 1500 grit sandpaper and give it that weird rocky look with the semi-sanded. I just kind of rubbed it over to highlight the raised areas. However, I think I left it in the ferric chloride too long, which gave it this weird kind of spackled etch. Maybe I didn't clean it right or something. I don't know. I'm not a chemist. And issue number four was the grind, just the overall profile grind. I'll show you what this was supposed to look like. So this knife is a Tanto knife, which is what this one was supposed to be. And you can see the differences in the blade. There is no defined point right here, like there is right there. And there is no, I'm pretty sure this is called a kisaki. I might be wrong. I don't speak Japanese, and I'm not a Japanese blade expert. So this, you might be able to see it. This line that goes from right here to right there is called a kisaki, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And this knife, this one, was just a failure in that regard. It had the nice Tanto profile when I first profile ground it, but during the finish grinding on the bevels, it got too thin up here, and because it was too thin, it started wearing away at that corner. So the corner no longer exists, which is a shame. Issue number 5, I think it's 5, is this hole. It didn't actually bug me that much, but it's not centered, which, I mean, isn't detrimental to the function at all. It's mostly an aesthetic thing. So I just figured I'd throw that in the list of failures. Other than that, I don't think there was anything else that went catastrophically wrong. I do really like this rocky texture. I've done it before on, you've seen me use it before, this kiridashi that I made a while ago. As you can see, these knives are very similar in style. This one I didn't etch in ferric chloride though, because I didn't have ferric chloride at the time. So identical rocky texture, gives it a nice grip, and it looks cool, honestly. That's the main thing. So what I would do differently, if you're a knife maker out there, or a new knife maker and is possibly looking into getting it, make sure you heat treat it right. That's a huge thing. I mean, this is 1084, it's a simple steel. It's easy to work with and very forgiving in the quench. Apparently I'm just bad at it. I've only been making knives for a little less than 2 years, I think, now. Yeah, I mean, I just started. Well, kind of just started. So, and I'm still having issues with it. So don't let that discourage you if you're starting out, and take that as a lesson. Be careful when you're grinding. Lesson number 2, I have a really cheap belt sander. It's a 1x30 belt sander from Wen, and it works. But if you have the capital, invest in a much nicer sander. Now, I'm not using that to blame my faults in the grinding, which was getting the edge too thin and ruining my point, or this corner. But it's typically easier on a nicer grinder to do things right. It was really hard for me to define the Kisaki in the first place with my jig. Also because I have only made maybe 3 knives with the Tanto point. Maybe 3. Compared to all the other knives I've made in different styles of points. So I'm also just not good at it. Hole. Make sure that you drill your hole right. I'm not sure what was wrong. I think the point of the drill bit missed the center punch mark, and it just went to the side of the center punch mark. So, not catastrophic, but it doesn't look that great. And ferric chloride. I don't know the stats on ferric chloride. I see some people etch their knives in like 10 minutes. I leave mine in for a few hours because that's what works for me. I don't know. Maybe we have different ferric chloride, or they've done something to their solution and I haven't. Mine's just straight out of the bottle. Yeah, I think that's it. This knife would not go out to a customer. It is not satisfactory. So you live and learn, and you make more knives, because steel is cheaper than pride.